get the deal closed. Get the deal closed.
We got the deal.
Ah, yeah.
Bensound.com. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the Land to Sea Commercial Team podcast. This is Kevin Flanagan. I am originally from the Philadelphia area, have a background in IT and business brokerage. You'll notice that a lot of the team are transplants to the great state of Florida, as are a lot of our clients, and it seems like most of the population here. So to my left,
Tim Martin. I'm also from Southeast Pennsylvania area, Exeter County, originally born and raised. I come from background in environmental due diligence, your phase 1s, your phase 2s, all those really important things that people forget to do at the end of their due diligence period that can completely blow up a deal. So that's kind of my background. To my left here.
My name is Ace Myers. I'm originally from Maine. I moved to St. Petersburg recently, great area, and I specialize in multifamily hospitality.
My name is Drew Hetherington, originally from Oklahoma. Long career in oil and gas in Denver, Colorado. Brief stint in Indiana, and now called Ocala, Florida, my home.
awesome. And Drew is the newest addition to the team, so we want to put a spotlight on Drew for the moment. We were, well, first of all, we're blown away by the fact that you're in Ocala. There's not many go-to commercial agents in Ocala, but certainly not many with your experience in the oil and gas industry. Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. So my background in oil and gas primarily is in the land department. If you're familiar with oil and gas, the term landman is often used for that role, land negotiator. And what that entails is a lot of contract review, a lot of negotiations, a lot of joint operating agreements with other companies and developers that we work with. Huge regulatory component to that. So when I hear Tim talk about phase 1 and phase 2, that's a lot of memories from working through some field studies in Colorado and dealing with the Preble mouse and the wetlands and everything else you could run into that could delay an oil and gas operation. And so it's a lot of those skills in oil and gas are very transferable to real estate, and specifically commercial real estate. New vocabulary, new terms. Same with oil and gas. It's getting that vocabulary down. The foundation and the fundamentals are very similar. So it's been a fun transition.
What are some of the trends in oil and gas, and which areas of the country are more difficult to find a good spot than others?
It's interesting now. It almost feels like the days of wildcatting. I don't want to say they're over.
Wait, time out.
Yeah.
What is wildcatting?
All right, that's a great point you bring up, and what I was alluding to on the terminology. How oil and gas, you almost have your own dictionary that you have to learn. So getting into commercial real estate, it's like, all right, where's that thesaurus from oil and gas to commercial real estate, where this means one thing here and means something else there. So wildcatting just think of like the old Wild West, right? When you go out and you drill a hole and you look for oil. So it's exploratory. So how that applies today is, let's go back maybe 10, 15 years. Tim is a geologist by education, and a lot of those geology jobs were looking for oil. And today, those are very few and far between. Mm. So that it's more of in the development stage than the exploratory phase. So you don't have your exploratory geologists doing much work anymore. It's mostly planning and designing wells and what zone to go into, multi-zones, but your land is almost already gobbled up. The land race of leasing and finding new plays and new discoveries was really hot about 15 years ago, and even there was another phase in West Texas, 2016, 17, a lot of private equity companies selling to publicly traded companies, and all that, especially since COVID, is sort of fallen off. So that investor money is dried up on that front. And so what we're seeing a lot of is consolidation. So a lot of bigger companies, for example, I used to work at Noble Energy. They are now owned by Chevron. And the last company I worked for, PDC, they just got purchased by Chevron. So they're going through that due diligence period right now between sign and close. So the last two companies I worked for, bid cap, anywhere from $5 to $15 billion companies are now owned by Chevron.
Wow.
So that's just
That's not an industry you want to see further consolidated, is
Yep,
it?
it's sad from a G&A standpoint. I get it from an investment standpoint. It makes
What's
sense.
G&A?
It's your employee cost essentially, like your administrative costs, general and administrative costs.
Okay.
So headcount,
Gotcha.
all the costs that go into having a staff is G&A. And so one example, if you have a company that has 500 employees and they're merging with another company that has 500 employees, you're not going to have 1,000 employees.
Right.
You might be lucky if you get 510 employees at the end of the day. So you're seeing a lot with that consolidation. You're seeing, and again, it makes sense from an investment standpoint because they're focusing on cash flow. Cash flow is king right now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not about, reserves are important. Your future bookings are important, but cash flow is king, and that's what the shareholders want to see. And so with that, you get the consolidation and you get the reduced headcount.
Wow.
So there's a lot. It's a lot of extremely talented people out there that find themselves without a job.
Right.
And you hope they get a good severance package and that can hold them over to jump into something else, whether it's oil and gas or. But honestly, I love it. It's great. It's an hour drive to Tampa, hour drive to Orlando. Daytona's not that far away. I took my boy to Daytona 500.
Oh, how was that?
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I was telling the guys earlier, best flyover. If you like flyovers, like, they don't just fly over once; they come back like 10 different times. It's amazing. Of course, the boy loved it. But
So,
I mean, we go to Disney World. You have at Theme Park Life with the Y. Got to throw the plug in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, tell them real quick about your podcast.
Yeah, so my son and I do a YouTube channel, and something we started when we moved down here. And I moved down here last fall, so I've only been here about 9 months. We started it earlier this year in 2023, and it was just a fun way for us. I'm 40, he's about to be 10, and the generational gaps in technology and everything is changing so fast that it was an opportunity for us to learn together. Editing software, he's always been big into photography, so we have a bunch of different cameras: Canon, GoPro, iPhone, Samsung. So we're using all these different technologies. We use Adobe Premiere Pro for editing. So we're doing it all on our own right now. It's becoming almost a little too difficult. Right? We used to get a video up like every week or, one every, maybe 2 a week. And now it's like, oh my gosh, like finding the time to edit all this stuff. So now we're looking into like, someone to do the thumbnails and the editing remote. But really the genesis of the channel is like in sort of bringing to attention the importance of like that father-son relationship,
Right.
or father-daughter, whatever it may be. But in our case, it's father-son, and I think there's a lot of issues in society that due to absentee fathers, and I think it's just a way to promote how fun that can be to have that relationship with your son,
Awesome.
and we're doing it together. We're learning together.
Right.
We make the mistakes together. Just telling Ace, like we did Rise of Resistance, and we got the best video of the ride ever, and then we realized we used the wrong cord, so it was all for naught. So we have a lot of those moments, or we get on a new roller coaster ride before anyone else, and we realize we forgot the battery for the GoPro.
Oh,
Yeah. We've been there.
So yeah, all the stories that we'll be telling, to each other and to our family as we grow older together. But yeah, it's been fun. It's educational. We are now officially monetized, so now we can start making money.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So off camera, you were talking about how the market in Florida reminded you of some other markets that have already matured that you've experienced.
Yeah,
Can
so
you
get
talk
back
about
to your question on the trends. In Ocala, it's interesting, and a lot of people in the upper Midwest, Eastern Canada, Eastern Seaboard that traditionally always retired in Florida, they look at Marco Island, Naples, Fort Myers, Sarasota, Daytona, Palm Beach. Those, as everyone knows, real estate has gone up tremendously, whether it's commercial or residential. So a lot of those people, they start looking out there, and the next thing you know, they end up in Ocala.
Right.
And so that's sort of the up and coming market, is sort of that north central Florida area, sort of in between Orlando and Gainesville. And you have the World Equestrian Center there. So it's a very international city. Like I always grew up, taking road trips with family from Atlanta down to Marco Island on I-75. And I always thought of Ocala as just like an interstate stop. It's like where you would go to the first cafeteria for dinner and stay at the Holiday Inn and then get up and keep driving the next day. But it's so much more than that.
Right.
You have all these very wealthy horse equestrian types that fly in from all over the world with their horses at the little private airport there. And so you have a lot of money that's being invested into the community, and you have that stability there to keep supporting that growth. So it's not like a boom bust cycle. It's unless the horse industry goes through a bust,
Right.
it's you got that sort of stable roots there to keep that community growing.
Right.
We're getting a Buc-ee's a couple
Yeah.
miles away from where I live right now.
Yeah, I
So
a lot of clients that my environmental consulting side has. I mean, we track things like that, and I personally have been seeing more trending of investments going into that area. Things have been shifting further north. There's been a lot more development, and that's kind of shows the trends in real estate as well. You're going to have development of things like a Buc-ee's. There's only 2 other ones in Florida. That's a huge investment, huge gas. I mean, you see that all the way going up 75 now. I start to see like, hey, we're interested in buying properties in this area. Can you help us out with the due diligence side? So just being able to see those property transactions too kind of gives clues to where you're going to start seeing that new development. And I'm personally seeing that in Ocala. I mean, we're seeing Polk County as well. That's a very fast developing area, but it seems like things are migrating further north, like you said, as properties are just becoming too unaffordable for everyone else further south. So I think there's a lot of potential for that transition going further north. So it's good to have you in that area.
I think we even see that locally. People moving from Miami,
Yeah.
West Palm, up to Ocala. Just there's opportunities there now, and it's a great place to raise a family, and you can just make that lifestyle change of going from 2,500 square feet to 6,000 square feet, and have the same payment.
Right. So how about for business owners looking for maybe another location for their business, or like the clients that we deal with in business brokerage that are moving down here from New York, Chicago, California, all these big markets. And some of them will call us and they'll say, well, what hasn't blown up yet? Where can I still get a deal? Is Ocala that kind of market?
Absolutely. And, you hear the old saying, buy on the outskirts of town and let the town come to you, for that long-term investment.
Right.
And I think we're seeing that on a town to city scale. Is all from Tampa to Orlando. The villages are right there, so you have all that
Right.
retirement money in the villages. Everyone's you can't always eat in the villages. They got to travel around and try different restaurants. And we have a huge swimming facility in Ocala. It's an Olympic size pool that was used for the Olympic trials, I think, in Nebraska, and they shipped the whole thing to
Really?
Ocala. So my son's in a swim program, and they, everyone from down in Palm Beach all the way up to Tallahassee and everyone in between. We have all these regional swim meets there, and I'm sure they'll start having national meets. It's only been open a year.
Wow.
Just over a year. And so you have all these families coming into Ocala now. This is just one small example for the swim meets. And I overhear them talking about how hard it is to get a hotel room.
Right.
And so I'd imagine you're going to see more hotel construction.
Oh yeah.
With that, restaurants, Buc-ee's, that's what they have, like 200 employees of like every shift almost, right?
Yeah,
200,
it's like
200 gas pumps.
Yeah, it's like a mini Walmart.
Managers making
Everything
6
you
figures
want.
at a gas
Right.
station.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
a huge economic driver.
So you're saying that TLO could be as big as DFW one day?
Yeah, I mean, you get all those. It's just like every other city, right? Where they've gone through that cycle, where the suburbs become the city.
Wow.
And in this instance, you have the cities and the suburbs and these other individual towns or cities all merging together.
Wow.
I mean, they're expanding the Florida Turnpike right now. They're adding additional lanes between Orlando and Ocala.
Right.
They have the high-speed train that's going in soon. I think it's going to open up here in a month or so.
Yeah.
From Orlando all the way down to Miami.
Yeah.
How
That
fast?
I can't remember the exact speed, but there is a point where they reach their high speed somewhere like between here.
Yeah. I'm curious.
I want to say they have an express train and then like a regional train that will make some stops along.
Let's all guess. I'm gonna guess 180.
So 150.
150?
I think that's way
But
too
if
low.
you've ever driven
We
on
don't
the
have
Florida
the best infrastructure
Turnpike
for
and the
high
interstates, you can appreciate the beauty of sitting in a train and not being
210.
in that.
Wow, 190 to 220.
Oh, let's go. Right there,
Uh,
210. I had a
So
feeling.
Europe is coming to Florida. I mean, right? Like that's
That's
luxury
crazy.
train, fast train.
So you guys are witnessing episodes where we still don't have somebody that can pull things up for us. You're getting in on the ground floor. But yeah, what do you think, Ace? We were talking about the TLO Metroplex earlier today, forming right before your eyes.
I know. I mean, it's really is amazing seeing it happen and how like Drew was talking about, seeing all these major cities and these smaller villages. It seems like they're all gonna like collide together eventually and just kind of start working together hand in hand. But it's something really cool. I mean, I'm fairly new to Florida, so I personally, when I first moved here, I didn't even know there's places that can still be developed. I thought Florida was already fully developed and there's no
It's
room left.
shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
All the wide open space. I mean, coming from the Northeast, everything's already clustered and built out.
And that's how I thought about it. Like, you hear about Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville. I mean, these are the big places everyone thinks about when you say Florida. But that's all I really thought. I'm like, oh, there's no room in Florida. Even for myself, I was like, am I gonna move? And is there even room for me in commercial real estate, or even somewhere to live? And then I moved here, and there's so many like unexposed areas that still need a lot of development. And it's just like woods and trees, and it's amazing, And there's always more work to be done and more construction to be done.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And there's hills. Like I never like and I was in Colorado for a long time, and even in Indiana, it's pretty hilly, and then you get on your way to Louisville, it's almost like little quasi mountains. But we have like a hill country here, and that's that sort of between here and Ocala,
Right.
up to that area. Just a lot of beautiful green rolling hills, and but yeah, you see that it's all so much of it is undeveloped.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, Tim, I know you just did some environmental phase work for a hog farm. You want to talk about that? And maybe we can shout out David's hog farm.
Yeah, put a shout out to David Fay.
David Fay!
He puts out.
Boy.
Well, I mean, it's amazing what they do because it's a hobby. I mean, he wants to do that full time. He would love to be able to do that full time and be just a farmer. And it's a lot of work. But they actually go out there and they trap wild boar, which is an invasive species, all across the Southeast. And they actually bring them in and trap them and raise them and give them high quality feed, and they'll actually sell it back to restaurants as a really high quality pork. Where people, it's so deep and red. The stuff you buy at the grocery store, that's just pink. Doesn't even look good. Doesn't taste good. But the stuff that he's selling, high quality. But anyways. Yeah, he was asking for a phase 1 to do some due diligence to acquire some more property. He also wanted to put some houses on there to help house some of the staff. But a lot of wetlands out there. That's the thing, Florida, wetlands everywhere. You pretty much are automatically going to assume that. But they needed to get a delineation because when you come to wanting to build the houses on the property, now you're going to have to get permitting done. And the county, it's Hillsborough County and down in Sefner, so they are going to require that permitting or the delineation be done for the permitting process. So I was able to help them out and get them a quick turnaround rush on that because they were at the end of their due diligence phase. And so stuff always gets forgotten, but I was glad to help them out. Nothing really crazy on this one.
Pretty clean.
It was pretty clean. Some tenants that were trying to get moved out so they can make the transaction complete. So no horror stories on this one. But there's always more out there. But I was surprised in the sheer amount of wetlands, but it was fine because where they want to build the houses are the street, and that area will just be used as grazeland for
the
wild boars.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So if there's any restaurant owners looking for something to add to the menu, he's aggressively shopping it out. And you can currently find it at the Sandbar restaurant on Anna Maria Island. So if that gives you any idea as to the quality of the meat, it's harder to find a bigger global tourist destination restaurant than the Sandbar out on AMI. So you guys reach out to David Fay of Lightning Bay Hydraulics, who's getting this wild boar farm going on the side. And then aside from that, we had an interesting story in multifamily that I think is a lesson that could be taught to everybody, that goes both ways, which is the motel in Daytona. We found an unbelievable property that we just got under contract, and really hard to find anything in hospitality right now that cash flows really well. I think that in this scenario, the only reason we were able to find it is the listing agent wasn't pushing it very hard, wasn't working it very hard. It was very difficult to get the due diligence items, the financials.
Right.
But it represented an opportunity for us, because if he was working hard, that property probably would have been sold a long time ago.
Long time ago, absolutely. And that's one thing we do come across with a lot when I'm doing my property research and just finding a deal, any kind of deal. Some listings on these websites are very vague, and just on the listing in general. And if you're like, well, I'll call the listing agent and get more information, then you find out that even the listing agent doesn't have some of this information. With a lot of other, a lot of people like agents won't I won't say waste their time, but they'll just forget about that listing. They're like, well, I'm not going to wait on a broker to provide, who doesn't have the financial information ready, who doesn't know, what kind of lender they're going with, or just like any kind of information in general about the property. If you don't have it ready, a lot of brokers will just forget about that listing. Well, at least for what we do, we kind of see that as an opportunity, because this might be a really good deal. It's just that the person or the broker who's representing the seller doesn't have all the information straightened out, or maybe the seller isn't willing to give him that information unless he really has a real buyer. And that's where we come in, and it is tough sometimes because you have to constantly go back and forth.
How many times have we called and texted this guy?
Oh my! Just for one thing too, like so you'll go sometimes weeks. I mean, we've been going for one thing. I call him every day. I call him every single, because I've been wanting this. It is an important thing, so it's something you can kind of move forward the process and kind of like loop back to it later on. But some information you can't move forward until you have it, and if it makes sense. But for this one thing, it's one of those things we can move forward a little bit, but it's extremely important. But so I call him every single day. I text him every single day, and it's frustrating because I know I'm okay with it. It's not frustrating for me. It's okay. I understand. Maybe he's busy. Maybe something's going on.
Yeah.
I can see how a lot of other people wouldn't want to deal with that, especially if you're a very busy broker. Not even busy. You don't like dealing with people that are not very responsive and don't have their things straightened out.
And on the commercial side, you can sell one deal and be good for the year.
Yeah.
So you don't really need to check your phone for the rest of the year. You sell a $10 million hotel, $20 million. So that's a huge difference between residential and commercial. So, I don't know how many of these brokers are suffering from that, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one thing we have to do is I keep going back and forth. And I mean, it's a great deal. That's where we're coming out of.
Oh, we got a Florida storm rolling in, folks, live.
What time is it? 2:30 p.m.
You might see us all blow away real quick.
It is a rainy season right now.
Yeah. So basically, we get a full day's worth of rain in about 20 minutes, and then it's back to sunny again.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like commercial real estate.
That's our intro.
But yeah, I mean, that's how.
In the water.
This is live, unedited.
In the water.
Yeah, you can't even fake that. Wow. That's awesome.
God.
That's awesome. This is how hard we work for you, folks. We brave the elements. We call the brokers. We do everything we can to get you a deal.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine.
Yes, sir. Play some music. Yeah, right there. I'm going in the water.
get the deal closed? Get the deal closed?
We got the deal.
Ah, yeah.
Vincent